So why I'm involved in open science is because I'm passionate about reproducible science, and so I've been working with a long time with colleagues in biology and bioinformatics. And one of the things that always startled me is that bench biology, it's a real discipline to have evidence, to do very well characterized experiments, to have those protocols clearly defined, to keep lab books, to be able to defend your outcomes. But in computational biology, it didn't seem to be the case. It seemed to be much of the scientific outcomes were unreproducible. And yet, e-science, which is really science, the use of computers in order to be able to do science is now standard. You know, it's what everybody would do. But you need to be able to do at least some notion of defendable results, even if they're not reproducible. And that evidential aspect just seemed missing, as it were. And in particular, the method aspect seemed missing. So a lot of my work is to do with being able to encode and to share and to reuse and to make publicly exposed methods, protocols, techniques. Because of course this is the other piece to, when you're doing science, you'd have materials and methods and results. So we have publishing of results. We are beginning to have publishing of materials with data, say, but publishing of method has been particularly haphazard. And yeah, that's the third piece of the triangle. So that's been a particular driver of mine. What's in it from the point of view of computer science is that open science presents some extremely interesting technical challenges. How one does the knowledge management associated with it, how do you do with large scale provenance, what does it mean to have trust, what does it mean to preserve results which are based on underlyingly dynamic data sets. What happens, how can I reproduce an algorithm that uses software on a platform that no longer exists? How do I do universal citation of data, for example? How do I do build social systems so that people feel comfortable about sharing results at various different times in the life cycle? How do we, particularly, how do we get out of this rut of publishing sort of static papers and instead publish executable research objects, where you get an object which has with it not only some discussion, but also that result in a form that can be processed by other machines. It incorporates computational methods with the data encapsulated, and those become your units of circulation and publication. We call them research objects. So that's all really cool stuff that completely subverts how one does publishing today and how one does sharing of results. So to get a scientist interested in open science, there's two ways of thinking about it. You as a scientist, how many times have you looked at a paper and wondered if you could reproduce those results, and you haven't been able to get hold of the data or the method or any sufficient detail in order to be able to truly reproduce it? How frustrating has that been? So open science would enable you to be able to get hold of those results. How many times have you wondered if a colleague or a collaborator has some results that they haven't used but would be very useful to you, open science would also provide the mechanism to be able to get hold of results that are basically underused or not used at all. What about the times when your PhD student has done their PhD and then buggered off without you being able to find those results later? Some place where a commons that you could deposit them, that maybe is private to you at first, but then you could later, when you're done with those results, just easily distribute them amongst your colleagues, collaborators. That would be convenient too. That's not strictly speaking open science, that's more like kind of supportive publishing. So as a provider of open science, you can build your reputation. So you can begin to make your results more available, data available, be able to find new collaborators, maybe get some more, or probably get some real new insights, make your data, make your results work for you more for your scientific goals. Does that make sense? So I've got a particular concrete case study, if that helps. So one of my team, Paul Fisher, he uses various different computational methods to do his bioinformatics. He's a bioinformatician, biologist. But anyway, he has a particular interest in epilepsy for family reasons. And he, as a side project in his own time, used some of these computational protocols he's been developing for a completely different project, actually to do with cattle and sleeping sickness, but who cares, and applied them to data that and papers that he'd found on epilepsy, and then tried to interest some scientists who was researching in that area in his findings, because he found some very interesting results. Nothing. So he said, okay, I'll just make it free. I'll just make it available. I'll put it out. I'll make it open. The first day he had 200 or 300 hits. And the people who originally rejected his overtures are now the people who are actually using his results, because he put them into the open. Now, he doesn't want to make a lot of credit about that. It's not for his personal career, but it was a way of really moving science onwards. And for him, that was most important thing for him. It's what Josh Summers from the Cordoma Foundation would call accelerating knowledge turns. I don't know if you know what a knowledge turn is.
No, but I can guess.
Yeah, it's the speed of turning a hypothesis to a result and back to a hypothesis. So the trouble in science at the moment is that the knowledge turns are too slow. So you have a whole bunch of different labs who are producing results independently and competitively with one another. And eventually those results emerge, and so the other lab can begin to consume them in their own work and do some more turn of the knowledge and then push the results out. And some of the results never emerge because they are kind of data hugged. The lab hugs the data to themselves, and the result is really slow progress. So if you can condense this by encouraging scientists to more easily exchange their results much earlier, pre-publication preferably, you can accelerate the turns in knowledge. And if you in fact can really get everybody to consume them in a commons, for example like Sage Bionetworks are building a commons of bionetworks, then you can really accelerate these results. And that is the biggest driver to open science, is the acceleration of knowledge turns.